Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.
Hi, and welcome to Forum on Safety. My name is Pete Lattanzio, and I'm the Chief of the Town of Colonie Department of Fire Services. And today my guest is Fire Protection Specialist William McGovern, and he's from the New York State Department of State Office of Fire Prevention and Control. And he also brought a friend of his with him today, his canine partner, Braith. Bill, thanks for coming in.
Pete, thanks for having me.
Great. Why don't you tell everybody what OFPC, I know it's a long name and I wouldn't have to want to write that on my business cards there all the time, but tell us a little bit, what's OFPC all about?
The Office of Fire Prevention and Control oversees training for firefighters throughout New York State, both career and volunteer fire service. We have several different portions of the office relating to the different aspects of fire service and emergency response.
I know from my end of things, we do both the code enforcement for the town and we also do the fire investigations. So I've had the opportunity to work with you guys a tremendous amount. And I guess we're kind of fortunate in New York State that all of our training is kind of centered through your office. And that gives us the ability to make sure everybody's getting the same delivery all the time.
Standardized training is correct. We offer set programs that meet with state and national standards, and it's developed and delivered on a uniform basis across the state.
And you guys cover the gambit too. It's not just fire investigation, like I mentioned, in code enforcement, but you do other types of training too, right?
Correct. The office is comprised of 6 different bureaus. I am assigned to the Arson Bureau, and in that capacity, we do fire investigation, the curriculum, and assistance. However, there are 5 other bureaus, as I mentioned. The Academy of Fire Science is located in Montour Falls. They have a recruit firefighter class where the career firefighters can go and be trained from right from off of the street to working as a career firefighter. And also, they deliver other residential courses right there at the facility. Another bureau is the Fire Prevention Bureau. They are responsible for inspections on state campuses, state-owned buildings, and they provide fire safety education classes to the tenants and occupants of those facilities. Another bureau is the Special Services Bureau. They are responsible for rescue training and curriculum, whether it be swift water rescue, trench rescues, high-rise building search and rescues, and they also have a canine program with search and rescue dogs. The Hazmat Bureau is designed specifically for incidents relating to hazardous materials, response and storage and safety issues, and develop programs and deliver programs related to that. And finally, the Fire Services Bureau is responsible for outreach training. We have over 300 part-time employees that deliver our curriculum to volunteer firefighters throughout each county in New York State. And the Fire Services Bureau oversees all those state fire instructors and help with training and local issues related to the fire and emergency services.
Oh, I know some of the folks in the town may have seen your vehicles here in town, and I know that Special Services, which is the Urban Search and Rescue Team, is also here. They're stationed up on Albany Street.
Correct. They're the New York Task Force 2, as they're called, is located. They're headquartered at 4240 Albany Street. So residents of the town will probably see a state fire vehicle probably in their travels
on a regular basis. Yeah, I think we've got the hazmat guys up at the airport also.
Correct.
So
correct.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of your co-workers here in town.
throughout the town.
Out of your office, out of the arson office, and you know, we talked about training a little bit, but I know some of the other things that you guys offer, and I guess we're kind of fortunate having you right here in our backyard. and we do take advantage of that whenever we can. But, you know, I know your services are available all over the state, and I know you guys go all over the state. But what are some of the other things that you guys offer out of your office besides the dog? And we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
As part of the services that we offer as an arson bureau, we can provide the training, the fire investigation training for fire departments, local county fire investigation teams, so forth. But we also have a series of different, what we refer to as fire investigation technical assistance, or we acronym FIDA. Those services include on-scene assistance with fire investigations, the K9 that you mentioned, and we also can perform records checks, insurance checks, to see if a suspect or a fire victim has had previous fires or a series of previous fires. Excuse me. We also operate and maintain the New York State burn injury reporting system. That was a law developed similar to the gunshot reporting law, where if someone is burned, the treating facility has to report those burns to our office. The precept behind that was that if somebody is burned in setting a fire, they will seek treatment, and they may not come locally to have that treatment. This system allows us to track throughout the state.
And that's paid off in dividends. Not only have you, through this program, have we been able to track down people who have set fires, but I know too that there's been a lot of cases of, say, child abuse that have been closed out as a result of that, where, you know, a child's been scalded or...
When you see the same name, and again, having that one central repository, when the same name keeps popping up, it cues the local investigators as we redirect back to a local investigatory agency to follow up on the information and make sure it's accurate. Mm-hmm. When they're going seeing the same child 2 or 3 times, if it does save one child going through that experience, it's well worth whatever cost.
Yeah. Well, I know you have a few more things, and I guess when we do an investigation, I kind of look at it like a puzzle. And when we go out to try and determine how a fire started, I want to collect as many pieces of the puzzle I can. And you guys offer a lot of these things where we can use the K9. I can use the burn reporting to see if anybody's been involved. I can do that pillar check looking for insurance. So you guys have a lot of tools that are very friendly to the municipal investigator, and it's a great resource. It's there.
Exactly, and that's our goal as an office in its entirety, is to more or less supplement and enhance and strengthen the municipal resources that are available to the citizens of Colonie or Auburn or anywhere across New York State, as we can bring these additional resources to you where they may not be at your disposal at a local level. And we can, again, like I said, enhance and strengthen, your investigative resources.
Well, the nice thing that I find too is if we have a fire here in Colonie, it's our investigation, and we will reach out for assistance from your office. We may get assistance from the district attorney's office, or from Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which is right here in Albany also. Everybody works together as a team. It's never become a power struggle. It's never, here comes the state, we're going to take over. Here comes the feds, they're going to take over. Everybody works very well together and blends together. And I think that's a compliment to you guys, because you do centralize a lot of this training, and we're all trained the same way. We're all looking for the same thing, and our goal is always the same thing.
And that's it. It's all about the greater goal, is accomplishing the fire investigation, or making sure that we can factually say what started the fire, and we're all looking for that goal, is to get accurate information on what started the fire, and by working together, you get that done in short order.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's going to get arrested for this either. We may find that an appliance has gone bad, which will lead to a product recall.
Exactly.
So
and again, ultimately, it comes down to the safety of the citizens of the town of Colonie and the state of New York. For fire investigation, for instance, or with fire investigation, for instance, like you said, Pete, it's not necessarily finding out that a crime was committed. It may be documenting the same failure in different appliances so that we can let our citizens know that these items are having issues, and it's a lot of times where recalls come from, whether it be through the Consumer Product Safety Commission or just on a local level.
I know we've seen a lot of them on TV in the recent couple of months with the lead recalls, especially during the holiday times, but we get the recalls in the office all the time, and we're constantly seeing things for overheating, poor wiring, whatever it may be. And a lot of that is a result of what we do out on the street, and you guys do out on the street, feeding this information back into consumer products so that they can get those products off the market. I know another project that you guys have recently kind of taken up is the juvenile fire setting, and that's going to be a whole other show by itself someday. But if you want to touch base on that, what you guys are doing with that now?
No, one of the things in Albany County is very fortunate to have a program right here in the county of which you oversee currently to address the issues of youth that set fires for whatever reason. As an office, we have just recently developed a program where we will, our goal has always been, as related to juvenile fire setting, is to facilitate programs at a local level, because the resources are all there to address the issues of that youth at the county or municipal level. However, there's a lot involved with that process, and for those counties who do not currently have a program up and running or are looking to develop that, our main goal is to help them facilitate their program development, but we can also go out and assist them with assessing or providing a fire prevention education intervention with a youth that's been identified as having set a fire. And again, like I said, it could be for a number of reasons, whether it be just a curious type of scenario where the child's experimenting, or it could sometimes be a result of some greater problem or issue that the child's just looking for help.
The other thing that's kind of dovetailed into that whole program is that you guys have stepped up to the plate from your office and have hosted a juvenile fire setters seminar every year at the Fire Academy, and that was something we could never get in New York State before. We always had to travel outside of New York State to get any type of that training, and through the guidance of your office, now that program's there, and it not only is open to municipal investigators such as you and myself, but we get police officers, we get mental health workers, we get the whole gamut of people coming into this.
Again, Pete, just like you mentioned before, with everyone working together and no axes to be ground per se, so to say, for lack of a better term, it's everybody working together to address the greater good and to get that youth the help that he or she needs to address their issues. And again, ultimately, safety is the goal.
Well, I've been out to that seminar every year since you've had it, and I think it's great. And the speakers that you brought in have been from all over the country, and it's really been a benefit to Albany County and to the town of Colonie. So it's a great resource.
Thanks. That's good.
Let's talk about your friend that you brought with you today.
My friend Braith.
I guess in the fire service, we've always been brought up with, we've had dogs in the fire service forever, and I think everybody's accustomed to see that white dog with the black spots that used to ride around on the fire trucks, and that was the big mascot. But I think the face of the dogs are changing a little bit.
The face of the dogs are changing. It's my partner is a chocolate Labrador Retriever. We have a couple golden retrievers in the office that are accelerant detection canines. They have the search and rescue team has a German Shepherd and a couple yellow labs. The Dalmatian is no longer the sole symbol of the fire service dog, although they are still there. It's interesting doing a little research here this morning in preparation. As far back as the 1800s, the Dalmatian was dogs were used in the fire service, and the Dalmatian was used back then and you may remember this well.
Yes, I from way back when.
The
yeah.
horse-drawn fire engines. The Dalmatians were used to calm the horses and keep them company during firefighting operations. And as recently, as I say recently anymore, it's been almost 30 years now. In the early 1980s. They looked at the use of canines for accelerant detection, or helping to identify whether an ignitable liquid was used at a fire scene, or whether there was any presence of an ignitable liquid. This past March, actually almost a year ago, just a little over a year ago, my days are running together. I had the pleasure of attending canine accelerant detection training with my partner, and in May of last year we were certified as an accelerant detection team.
I remember when the first dogs came into your office, Buddy and Hershey, and we had Hershey here out of the Albany area, and Buddy was assigned out of the State Fire Academy. And again, I think it was a new concept that there was not a lot of people or not a lot of states using dogs for this type of work. And you know, those two dogs, to start a program off, you couldn't ask for two better dogs.
No, they did.
The dogs and the handlers were amazing.
It really was. In 1988, like you said, investigator Rick Rogozinski and investigator Mike Knowlton spent several weeks at the Atlantic City, New Jersey Police Department to be trained as accelerant detection canine handlers, and they were paired up with Hershey and Buddy respectively, and they provided a great foundation for the office's canine program. They really did. Then Bureau Chief John Mueller saw a need for, or a potential need for, the use of canines in fire investigation, and got here's Braith. He knows we're talking about him. He got Rick and Mike into the program in Atlantic City, and they brought back New York's first two accelerant detection canines. And the program has been very successful since then. We've had a total of 12 teams in service. There are currently 5 still in service throughout the state, or throughout our office. There's several others in various governmental agencies, but we have 5 canines in service right now.
When you talk about accelerant detection, ignitable liquids, what exactly are the dogs trained to pick up? The program in our program, they're trained to indicate on 8 different classifications of ignitable liquids, whether it be gasoline or kerosene, the different liquids that are typically used to ignite a fire. Like I said, there are 8 different classifications, and they can't tell us which one, unfortunately. They can tell us whether there's a vapor residue from that liquid there, but you know, I can't communicate with them that well, so he You're
can't
not the dog whisperer?
Yeah, he can't tell me whether it's gasoline or diesel fuel or some other liquid, but he can tell me that there is something that he's been trained to indicate on in that area, and what we would do then is take a sample from where he indicates and send it to the lab, and the lab can tell me what exactly it is. So it's a very useful tool for the fire investigator, in that they can search large areas in a short period of time and help us to differentiate maybe on where actually whether there's something present or not, I guess would be the first indication. And if there is something, he or some of the female dogs, Emma in mind, could tell us where we would want to look to sample a specific location.
And I think you mentioned the word tool, and the dog is just a tool. It's going to bring us to an area where there's, you know, they've indicated that maybe one of these liquids are present, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's an intentionally set fire.
Exactly.
You know, it could be something natural in the building, or...
And that's the thing. A lot of people have to understand, you know, we've gone to places and you know, the canine's been running in the fire building and indicated, and people come running out, the dog sat, and it's just because the dog sits does not mean, like you said, that the fire was set. It could be just a naturally occurring product. People that smoke keep lighter fluid in their dresser drawers or in their end table. That would be something that Braith would indicate on.
And they would also indicate on acetones too, correct?
Yeah, nail polish remover.
remover.
If a lady uses nail polish remover, or yourself.
Well, they show it again.
But no, that's a naturally occurring product, and Braith would indicate on that, as would any of the other dogs.
So again, it goes back to us now as investigators to complete our investigation to see if all those pieces of the puzzle are fitting
it's
together.
that puzzle that you talked about earlier with the different resources and the different data systems. We could, the canine is another piece of that puzzle to help us put the big picture together.
I know that dogs have been involved in some big cases over the years, or the dogs and their handlers, and I think one of the biggest ones, and I don't even remember the date of it, but was the Happy Land Social Club fire down in New York City.
Yes, I don't know how many people are familiar with that, but back in March of 1990, there was a incident in New York City where it was a small nightclub that there were several other issues, but an acquaintance of one of the employees was banned from the club, and he went back, and there was some jealousy issues, and he took less than a gallon of gasoline and poured it into the entranceway of the nightclub, the only way in and out of this nightclub, and the subsequent fire was responsible for the death of 87 people. That was the Happy Land Social Club. And Canine Hershey and his handler, Rick Rogozinski, were flown by the state police helicopter to New York City and confirmed the New York City Fire Marshal's belief that there in fact was an accelerant poured in that area, and they were able to arrest the perpetrator, and he's currently serving 25 to life in New York State corrections. So that's probably one of the most prominent high-profile cases that the accelerant detection canines have worked here in New York State. But on a more local basis, back in 1994, Canine Buddy and his handler, Mike Knowlton, worked a fire in Amsterdam that some of the residents here in Colonie may be familiar with, the Mahasko Mills fire. And again, they ended up getting convictions in that fire as well, and that reached up to the level of Interpol with money transferred across across country lines. So a very high profile, another locally high profile case. Some other cases that I can think of right off the top of my head, back in 2001 in Romulus, New York, there was an individual who set fire to his house and killed his 4 children and his estranged wife. And investigator Dale Moon and Canine Alex were used in that case, and again, that individual was found guilty of arson first and murder charges, and he's currently serving a life sentence in New York State Prison. So.
You know, you talk about these cases, and I think it's important for people to understand that the work that these dogs do, or their findings, are accepted in the New York State court systems.
Definitely, and that's one of the pathways that Hershey and Buddy both paved for the canine accelerant detection program in New York State and nationally as well. But Hershey was first accepted, and actually Hershey and Rick had a perfect record for all the cases that Hershey worked on that went to trial. They had a 100% conviction rate. Canine Buddy and Investigator Knowlton were the first accelerant detection team to be accepted in federal court. So again, not only did the New York State program lay the groundwork for New York State courts. It also was critical in federal court, in setting precedents in federal court. And again, you know, I hate to focus on all the bad cases. There've been other cases not so devastating that didn't involve death, but a large fire back in May of 2006 in New York City, the Greenpoint complex there, the large warehouse building that grew quite substantial. Canine Buka and his handler Jim Cable went down and worked that fire. So there are, you know, some that aren't quite so harsh.
I guess too, I mean, people sit at home and watch TV now, and you know, all these crime scene TV shows are on, and you know, they call it the CSI factor now when you go to a trial, but it's factual that the dogs' noses are much more sensitive than any piece of laboratory equipment that's out there. I know that's changing as technology gets better, but here's this un-high-tech piece of equipment, this dog,
right,
that is much more
actually
accurate.
they are very high-tech. They're high maintenance, I do have to tell you. But no, there are studies done that do indicate the canine's olfactory sensory perception is far more acute than any lab equipment that is available at this particular time.
Well, obviously the studio here today is a little small to do a demonstration, but you have indicated to me that you've got some training coming up in the near future. Yeah. So I'm going to have you come back, and hopefully you'll have some footage that we can show everybody how the dogs work and what it's all about. Because I think the dogs indicate, like you mentioned before, the dogs sit down. It's a very passive indication as opposed to barking or, you know, digging or getting real excited. So it'd be interesting for folks to be able to see that.
Yeah, I'd love to come back and speak to you a little bit about the training process for the canines, what we went through in our 300 hours of training, and we'll get you some footage of an actual search as this.
You know, one of the other things you mentioned before too was even when Rick went to New York City with the dog, put him on a helicopter. You know, I have a dog who we have a hard time getting into the car sometimes, so let alone put him on a helicopter, but I know you put him on boats, elevators, escalators, you put them through a whole rigorous training thing. And
quite a bit of environmental training, and we'll talk about that on our next segment. I really look forward to it. Good. I hope it'll. Well, I hope the residents think it's worth tuning back into.
No, I'm sure they will. Again, I appreciate you coming in today. I think that the services that your office provides are, invaluable to us out in the street and street people. And the stuff that you guys offer is it's amazing. We're very fortunate here in New York State to have these services available. And again, I'm a little selfish that we got you right in our backyard, so it's even better for us. So again, I appreciate you coming in, and we'll have you both back in a few weeks, and we'll show the folks what you really do out on the street.
Great. Thank you, Peter, for the opportunity. I appreciate the invitation.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And that's it for this show. Obviously, again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to drop us a line, and we would be glad to answer your questions and get some feedback from you. So we will see you again in the near future, and again, we'll bring back Investigator McGovern and his dog Braith. Thank you.
Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.